it's Peter Wright and Kathleen Beauvais in Ontario, Canada, with episode number 90 of the Yakking Show. Yes, we've hit the 9-0. We're only 10 away from the century mark. This is where we talk about life, business, and more, and we bring you tips and ideas for the changing world we find ourselves in. And today's guests, who Kathleen will introduce in a moment, are very important because they bring a focus on a different part of coping with the changing world, but I'm not going to steal their thunder. So first, let's welcome Kathleen, and she will do the honors with our guests. Hello, Kathleen. Good to see you. How are you on this bright but snow-covered day in Ontario?
Hi, Peter. I'm doing great, and it is a beautiful sunny day here, despite the fact that it's kind of cold, but that's okay. We'll take it. Thank you all so very much for tuning into our show. We so appreciate you, and we love reading your comments. So please keep them coming. And if anyone out there is interested in being on the show, please don't hesitate to reach out to either Peter or myself. And if you're enjoying our shows, we'd invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as Peter mentioned, we have two special guests with us today, and what an inspiration they are for our younger audience. Please welcome to our show Justin Stone, who is the co-founder of Playgrounds, as well as the Jessica Vanderheide, who is the head of operations for Playgrounds. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be here.
So tell our audience a little bit about your backgrounds and what led you in this interest to open a unique exercise facility, actually, which we'll get into in a little bit. But tell our audience a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start. I grew up in Toronto originally, and I came out to Waterloo for school, and then I did a bachelor's in kinesiology. And I was really big into fitness at the time, and I participated with a lot of people who were both like local residents and members of the university, who kind of created this parkour community where we would train and do fitness outside. And it's a lot of like obstacle course training, but it's a lot of like functional fitness. Like we would use just natural features or artificial like structures to just do workouts and try to be healthy. And there's this culture of doing kind of decentralized like group workouts and then training on these various public spaces, and we decided to make a gym to train people. And mostly it's been focusing on the younger generation. So I got together with a bunch of community members and pitched in to basically run classes in the park with some obstacle course equipment. And then we did that for like half a month. And then we rented out some space out of a cheerleading gym and then further ran programs. And that's when Jess kind of came on. And then now we have since opened and operated our own space for, I want to say 3 years.
Yeah, we just hit the 3-year mark.
Yeah, just about 3 years now.
And my background, I also came to Waterloo for school. Didn't actually meet him at that point, but I did an undergrad in music and then a postgrad in children's media in Toronto. And so I've always really been drawn into kind of this like children's entertainment, but also obviously it's a healthy sort of thing to be doing. So the space, and I just really admired right from the beginning this business that they were creating. I thought it was a wonderful idea. You know, there's so many kids that are bouncing off the walls, especially now in lockdown. Unfortunately, it's harder to connect with them right now. But yeah, it's a common thing you hear from parents, that these kids just want to climb and jump on everything. And why not teach them how to do that in a safe way so that they're less likely to injure themselves, and give them a space to do it where, you know, they might not break their living room furniture.
So in the end, we built a program that's like an amalgam of many different things. Like I and some of my business partners who have co-founded the gym, we worked various jobs and been participatory in other sports throughout the years. Like before I was a parkour coach, I was a gymnastics coach for a while. I would teach rock climbing and like would participate in the sport and then just run like kids camps and other programs out of other businesses. I participated in cheerleading as part of the cadets. So it's like, there's a lot of like bits of fitness culture that we've just taken from our various experiences. Like in that time, we've since hired coaches with more of like a martial arts background where they would learn to do acrobatics and stunts and things like that by first starting with like martial arts or breakdancing or something like that, and then moving into a similar sport like ours. So in the end, we're similar to like a gymnastics gym where we might teach kids to do obstacle course training and also like stunts and flips and things like that. But we're a little more free form, whereas like a gymnastics gym is typically geared towards like gymnastics competitions, which are set in a specific way. There's no real like sports association that unites all the parkour gyms. So you'll have a different mix of kids or adults who come from different sports, and they just like kind of freestyle.
Wow, very good. So I think you've given us given our audience a pretty good idea of what your playgrounds does and is. But I know that we wanted to ask you specifically. I think Kathleen wanted to ask you about parkour. I've heard of it before. I served in the military, so I know a little bit about obstacle courses and that thing. But I think Kathleen wanted some more details, didn't you?
Well, yes, I just basically for those people that are tuning in that have never heard of the word before and are not familiar with it, maybe you can give us a little bit more insight as to what parkour is. Now, I've had the chance to go to your website and actually see some YouTube videos that you've produced. And what struck me was that a lot of the exercises that is part of this seems very natural, seems very much like what children would typically do at play. So a lot of jumping, climbing, skipping, just so anyways, why don't you describe what parkour actually is?
Yeah, sure. Parkour, you could think of almost like a sport like skateboarding, where it started as like a grassroots kind of movement between a bunch of different people who would then gather together and then form their own culture. And it started in the early, like mid 2000s, and has since grown to be like the American Ninja Warrior and sport, similar to how like the X Games or other things were like the Red Bull.
You know, a very extreme version is basically anytime you watch, you know, a superhero on screen like Spider-Man go from building to building. That's obviously a very extreme version of it, but really it's using your environment to get from one point to another, and just in these creative and fun ways. Yeah.
The part in Spider-Man Homecoming where they ask Spider-Man to do a backflip and he does a backflip, it's like spot on for like the sport. And maybe a bit from that Office where they jump into the refrigerator box.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about you, Peter, but this sounds really like a lot of fun.
It does sound like a lot of fun. And it, you know, as you can see, I'm a lot older than you guys. And I lived in Africa most of my life. And as a kid, where if we got frost 3 or 4 times a year, it was a serious winter. So we were outside barefoot and half the time without a shirt all day, every day. And, you know, people didn't worry too much about kids. We climbed trees that made our mothers horrified, and we fell off horses, and we did all sorts of stuff. But it bred in us a love of activity that's certainly lasted me all my life. And I think a lot of kids miss that. So I think your ideas are really good on that one. Yeah, most definitely.
We have a different oh, sorry.
No, carry on.
I was going to say, we definitely have a different relationship with like risk and like how people might see kids do these sports and it seems really risky. That's like the tip of the iceberg for how much training or how much thought they might have put into it. And the reason why you would see that and not see it as risky is that you would kind of be able to recontextualize all the training or like forethought that went in to what they're doing necessarily.
Yeah. Interesting.
Right. Like
I wanted to, so you're talking about kids. Are most of your members youngsters, or do you have some adult classes as well, I think, don't you?
We largely focus on kids. We have historically run an adult class. The numbers haven't really been high enough for us to want to continue it right now, but we do have open gym times both for adults and kids. Obviously not right now with lockdown, but it seems like the announcement might be coming for reopening. So yeah, but largely we focused on kids classes, and then other services we've offered have been like birthday parties. There were, for a while, we were running some parents' night out, where parents could just kind of drop off their kids for a few hours, have a date night or go shopping, and also camps. We've run those before in March breaks or summer. So yeah.
Here's a question. It's probably more for Justin than Jessica, but you've obviously been active all your life from what you're talking about. So if you can get kids started young enough, as I mentioned earlier, and from my experience as a childhood, but if you get modern city kids active young enough in exercises like parkour, does that tend to develop into a habit and stay with them for life?
Yeah, I think like of parkour is one of many things, and we're kind of just throwing spaghetti at the wall, just seeing what sticks, right? If you can hook kids' interest and you find something that they're interested in, that they can focus on and develop long-term goals, it's like why any sports coach is a role model, right? Like this is a person who's guided a child towards like structured goals and self-betterment in a way that's just like, that's the foundational skill. And it doesn't matter if they do parkour or they do any other sport.
Sure.
I will say that probably my favorite part of watching this business and watching the classes is, you know, sometimes kids start out very, very timid and very afraid their parents might not be sure if they'll even want to participate in the first lesson, let alone commit to the term. And almost all kids that have come, you just see their confidence just skyrocket as they successfully, you know, jump from one point to another or try something new that they didn't think they could do. And often they just end up running by the end of the term looking just so confident and comfortable and aware of their bodies and the space around them, which is really incredible to see. I would say that a lot of them have mastered it more than I have.
And not to mention increasing their fitness level.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I think that's the real change that's going to happen with parkour. Where parkour first started as like basically all these people that would train outside in these super harsh conditions. I feel like it's flipped, and the same way we talk about risk, and that's flipped, where it's just like, oh no, that's too risky, we're not going to do that. We flip it. It's like, what kind of skills or abilities can you build to protect you from the risks of the things that you do? Because it's not like when you had kids scamper up trees and things like that, like, yeah, sure, they're really active throughout their life and they're probably fairly muscular and like they had good reflexes or they were well balanced. So like climbing a tree was fine because they'd actually done just years and years of practicing that. And that means something very different than a kid that just is sitting down all day.
Oh yeah.
They suddenly go out and like climb a tree when they just like had no prior experience to that.
We also have a lot of mats. It's not all risk. There's definitely
so it's
some
like a
protection.
floor and a foam pit, like all these other things to like start you on the ladder to getting used to potentially more risky or like more intense like situations, like just being higher up, right?
Yeah. I wish you'd spoken like that to the army instructors when I did my military training, because there were no mats then. Kathleen, back to you.
Well, as everybody is well aware, we're in the middle of a lockdown right now, but how have you been able to retain your membership?
Well, we have had so many wonderful customers that really want to see us succeed. And certainly during the first wave of the pandemic, especially, we did communicate to them, you know, at that time we were set to start a term and weren't able to start it, that just entrusting us with their registrations, allowing us to hold on to that would help us survive until we were able to reopen. And it has. This round of lockdown, we were not quite as knocked off our feet as far as, you know, it just came out of nowhere, and being told you need to close when things are just feel like they're ramping up business wise is very surreal. But
yeah, we've been rolling with the punches, but I feel like we've gotten a lot of support too from both our customers and
but this round we have been doing a little bit more as far as trying to make video content for our viewers. Some of that is still in the editing process, but you can watch that in lots of platforms. And that, and also we've started doing live streams on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Where viewers can just do some exercise along with an instructor. So far, and Justin. so we will continue to do that until the lockdown is lifted, at which
Mhm.
point we will transition back to in-person classes, of course, with a lot of all the regulations and stuff in place as we were doing before. Yeah.
Excellent.
Right. Okay. Good. So you've survived. That's great. That's better
Yes.
than a lot of people have done. That's really good.
Yeah.
So what's the future look like for parkour and your type of indoor fitness training and the element of sport with it? Where's this going? We've seen, let me go back a step. We've seen waves of, what was it called? When gyms got into, I've forgotten all the terms. We came up with all these movement terms, and I'm going back 20, 30 years when suddenly a whole lot of people got enthusiastic, flocked into gyms to do, what was it, Zuma or something? I can't remember, and various other things. And they seem to ebb and flow. And then you have this core group of people that stays at the gym and just keeps on doing their exercises. But yours sounds like a lot more fun than some of those more regimented things, and especially appealing to kids. So where's it going? What's the future now?
Well, I mean, certainly the in-person experience is much better without some of the COVID protocols. We did at the beginning of the pandemic remove all of the foam from our foam pit, and it has been only mats in there for now, just because they're a lot harder to clean. As well, enforcing social distancing in this situation is obviously less fun. Kids have a natural desire to kind of,
Of course,
run up to each other and their and their coaches. So maintaining that is certainly challenging, but we still do believe in the future of the in-person side of the business. I think that the social aspect of kids has been really lacking. So, depending on how regulations pan out, maybe offering more bubbled sort of playtimes or classes. We had come up with a fairly good structure. I mean, of course, we eventually hope the social distancing regulations do lessen, but in having very limited class numbers, staggering the times between classes so they have time to get their stuff on and leave before, and then we clean in between, the groups of kids. So we were fortunate. We did not have any cases of COVID happen at our facility to date, but, knock on wood as we go ahead back.
Okay, but
yeah.
what about the longer, assume we get back to something like normal before the virus thing started. The long term or the longer term future of this type of training, parkour type of training, do you see it's going to get more and more popular and grow?
I do. We were seeing a lot of growth right before the pandemic. It was definitely in an upward turn.
Good.
And also, there's new kids coming of age to come into a facility like this all the time. And I don't think that the love of play has ever really been replaced. You put kids in a room with a bunch of structures that they're allowed to pretty much do whatever they want on with obviously supervision and some rules. But, I think that brings out a certain just desire to climb and
Sure.
play that is very natural. So I do think that there is longevity in that idea, because I mean, the parkour part is, yes, it's cool and it's definitely part of it, but having just this sort of more free form area where they're able to just explore and discover, I think definitely has longevity.
Good.
Are you finding that it's mostly parents encouraging their children to get involved in this type of activity, or are you finding it's more the kids telling their parents, I really want to do this?
It's definitely a bit of both.
Yeah.
There are some parents who, have tried other things, who've tried gymnastics or who've tried karate, and maybe it was just a little bit too regimented for them, or they just didn't care for it. But so we find ours is definitely a good kind of middle ground where there's some structure, but there's a little bit less of a must do this at this time kind of thing. And also, birthday parties were really great for that, where they might come as an attendee and really have a good time and then tell their parents about it and want to come on a more regular basis. Yeah.
So we definitely get both types. We'll definitely get kids who are just like really understimulated and they are pretty capable and they want to come in and then do something pretty intense. So like starting them like in a spotting belt to learn like a flip, or just making sure that they can do it into the foam pit and things like that. And then kind of building off that interest. But we'll also get kids who are just really nervous and like want to build up confidence and feel more able to accomplish things, and then sort of just like starting them in a very controlled way and getting them to do more and more. I think both have needs.
Very good. And of course, the way that modern housing in cities, in apartments or in subdivisions with tiny little gardens, there's just no trees for kids to climb anymore, even if they're allowed to. So that's why this is your ideas are really good, where these kids can explore and be kids. Yeah, no, that's great. Excellent.
I think if a place is going to do it properly, it'll be Kitchener-Waterloo. Like, I think of that new outdoor fitness spot they installed at Victoria Park. Like, that's maybe a year and a half old. I think there's another kind of workout park uptown in Waterloo somewhere. And then by the boardwalk is actually this kind of crazy cage with this like AstroTurf padded bit underneath it, kind of where the water park is.
Yes.
That's actually a really cool looking playground.
And that trend of outdoor fitness equipment, playground, whatever you want to call it, seems to be expanding worldwide. I've been watching videos in the UK where the municipality or the town council finds a little bit of vacant land. They put up a whole lot of exercise equipment that's durable, that's can survive the winter, and people just go and help themselves. And I even saw one in Spain when I was walking over there, miles from anywhere, just on a walk in a conservation area. There was a whole lot of exercise equipment stuck there for people to use. So yeah, interesting stuff. Kathleen, have you got any more?
I just wanted to ask them how do viewers contact you if what's the best way for them to do that?
Certainly right now during lockdown, email is best if you want to contact us directly. You can do that either directly through email address, which we can link. I can say it if you want, info@kwplaygrounds.ca. Also through our website, there is a contact us form. Playgrounds Movement Training Center is the whole title of us. You can also contact us through our Facebook page or on Instagram.
Okay, and your Facebook page is what's that called?
Is it
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Facebook at KW Playgrounds, or like /.
Well, I'll find it. And Instagram. Yeah, I know that the contact buttons are on your website, so I can follow you from there. And I'll put it on the video here for you. Is there anything else in the fitness-related world you'd like to tell our audience quickly before we go?
Well, don't give up. Keep moving. We will have more opportunities again. I know it's felt very, maybe stagnant for a lot of us.
Especially with the winter.
Yeah, but there will be more close, fun fitness times again. I believe it.
It's got to be.
I think it's just around the corner, actually. I'm pretty sure.
Yep. And don't let the cold put you off.
Exactly. Right. Brave the winter.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you both so much for joining us today. We really enjoyed our chat, and thank you all so much for tuning into our show. We so appreciate you and love reading your comments. So again, please keep them coming. And if anyone out there is interested in being on our show, please don't hesitate to reach out to either Peter or myself. So until next time, bye-bye, everybody.
Good.